So, next, we have a conversation on inclusive technology, why accessibility is innovation and not charity. To guide this discussion, please welcome our moderator, Vidya Rao, Senior Diversity and Inclusion Manager, One Bros Discovery, and our speakers for the day, Veena Kulkarni, Managing Director, Road to Utopia, Shraddha Agarwal, Founder and CEO, Sign Setu, Anamika Mukhopadhyay, Principal Engineer, Nagaru. Give us a minute to set up the stage. Thank you so much.
All right. So thank you so much. I think it's a pleasure to be here on the forum, sharing the stage with my beautiful panelists. Just a very quick introduction for ourselves. So you've heard about me. I work with One Bros Discovery and I manage the Inclusion Charter for India and have been always in inclusion and accessibility. I live that every moment while at my job and in my personal life. So just quickly introduce my panelists over here, starting with Shraddha. So Shraddha is an entrepreneur and have been doing a lot of work in the space of community for deaf. So Shraddha, a quick 30 seconds intro about yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Shraddha and I'm a deaf founder and entrepreneur of Sun30, which is an all-in-one educational platform that teaches deaf people how to read and write in English with the help of sign language. Short with Duolingo for the deaf. Thank you.
Thank you. And over to you, Veena, a quick 30 seconds intro.
Can you hear me? Yeah, hi. My name is Veena. I work in diversity, equity, and inclusion with corporates, with NGOs, with policy, sometimes with the government as well. So DEI from pretty much all aspects, I guess, I think, and we're learning this as we go, that things are getting a lot more accessible, but things are also needing to be a lot more accessible still. So yes, I think that's what I'm here for.
Thank you. And over to you, Anamika, for a quick intro.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Anamika and I have over a decade of experience in the IT services space, currently working as a consultant with Nagaru. And I'm very passionate about inclusion and sustainability. And from the accessibility point of view, I've been working with a team which has blind people, which has people with neurodiversity, and we all try to bring in the perspective of all the walks of life when we are delivering a software. We try to bring in the barriers to as low as possible and make the softwares that we deliver as inclusive and as open to everyone as possible. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. I think with that intro, so let's get started with the actual discussions, right? And the topic we are talking about is accessibility is innovation, not charity. And I would say there's no better day than today talking about this, because today happens to be the International Day of People with Disabilities. And not just that, while we talk about it and we are at the topic, what's also that something that I'd like you to listen in and take away, that how accessibility can drive innovations. That's what we are going to do throughout the next couple of minutes. So just stay tuned and then listen to us. Starting with you, Shraddha, on the starting with you, Veena, on the topic of how can we put accessibility into perspective for the audience here? Because I'm sure there is a mix of a tech and a non-tech audience who may understand accessibility, the digital accessibility, and may not know the full spectrum of it. Could you just tell us a little bit from your own experience as to how you have come in contact with accessibility and how it has impacted you?
So the reason Vidya asked me that question is because I'm a non-techie. So let me quickly tell you. Let me give you a perspective of what accessibility means. When we say accessibility, it means that everybody should have, or as many people as possible should be able to get to something. right? So if I very simply say there's a movie running, there's a cinema hall in which a movie is running. Can everyone get to the cinema hall where the movie is running? And can everyone enjoy the movie that is running? And that is accessibility. So sometimes it comes in the way that I cannot access it because I cannot walk up the stairs, or I cannot access it because I cannot hear well. Sometimes what happens is accessibility also, inaccessibility also hurts people who don't have, who are not from the mainstream world. So for instance, if you say queer folk, if you say people who don't have the economic background of perhaps getting a phone or even able to access technology, so or people who don't know the language, right? So these are places where this is what we mean by accessibility. Can I get to something? Do I have a way to get and to understand something, right? Does that make sense?
So thank you. I think what you're talking about is accessibility is a spectrum, and regardless of you have a disability or not, and in some cases the disabilities are not just seen, even if someone with an invisible disability or without any disability, accessibility does matter to each of us all the time, right? And that's a beautiful example of movie. Thank you so much. So over to you, Shraddha. So how has accessibility in your education or employment has sort of positively impacted or not very positively impacted, or sort of, it created a barrier for you?
Thank you for asking that question. So basically, I have a lived experience of being deaf, and accessibility is actually something very personal in my life. It has actually saved my entire life, not just in abstract ways, but in daily small movements. Like, for example, right now if you see me, I'm on my phone, right? I'm actually on my phone because I'm using captions on my phone to understand like whatever is being said over here. So, like, what happened is actually based on my own educational experiences where I faced a lot of difficulties. Like, for example, in a classroom, the teacher will be moving around. So it's very difficult to repeat them, right? And at the same time, we tend to miss out on a lot of information. And even if the best repeaters can repeat only 30 to 40% of it, the remaining is filled with guesswork. So that's literally how I serve out my entire education system in India. And I had the opportunity to pursue my master's abroad in the UK. I actually chose that opportunity because I thought it would be accessible where I would not have to do double work. Unfortunately, that was not the case there as well. So whatever methods I use in India, I had to do it in UK as well. So basically, to sum it up, the educational experience has not been accessible for me. So the system is not actually built for differently abled people in mind. So that's exactly why we built Sun30, the company which was created, which would help provide accessibility for deaf community in mind. And so accessibility has helped me in terms of technology improvement. But when technology was not there, it was very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're talking about, the technological accessibility, so that is crucial for, especially if someone has a disability. But also, I want to talk about an important takeaway from the discussion that you said is accessibility is absolutely empowering, right? Now, when there is no accessibility, if accessibility is missing in a technology, for instance, be it banking, be it e-commerce, be it anything else, right? Unfortunately, that reinforces the stereotypes about disability for no fault of people with disabilities. Like, very often it's perceived that, oh, well, Shraddha, as a person with deafness or a hard of hearing, is not capable of reading or interacting with people around her. And that's such a wrong notion, right? So therefore, you're almost making a business case or an important point, Shraddha, about why accessibility is important in any setting, right? So thank you so much. And over to you, Anamika. In your experience as an IT professional, so how has accessibility really mattered in the business context? And how can we really make accessibility a part of DNA, right? Make it DNA for the engineering teams, especially because we are talking in the context of technological accessibility.
Sure. So, yeah, since we are working day in, day out with different kinds of businesses, different domains, banking, travel, and whatnot. I mean, a lot of different domains we are working with. And for a business to run or for a business to even get more revenue, disability or disabled people, they are 16% of the world's population. That's 1.3 billion people. And imagine, let's say, as a business, you're launching an e-commerce app and you're missing out on those 1.3 billion people as your customer base. What kind of revenue could you have, made out of that? And studies and research says that, let's say again, taking example of the e-commerce app, if you are catering to this population of disabled people and you're making your apps accessible, you'll see a rise in revenue by 23%, which is quite significant, So definitely, when it comes to the question that accessibility is charity, again, that's not even in the question. It's way beyond that. Along with that, we have support from different governments, different regions, enforcing different laws, regulations, which makes accessibility a mandate. And if you don't follow it, you might, get involved in legal implications, which leads to your, reputational damage, and also might be some penalties which a business might have to face. So yeah, all in all, of course, and coming from a tech background, when we are working on our projects on a daily basis in our sprints as developers, as testers, for us, it's a very small effort in the basic HTML to add a few additional tags. There are some area labels, adding some alternate text to images, having, labeling of simple buttons or graphics that's on your page on the application or your app that's helping your business. It will not take a huge amount of time for you as a developer or for you as a designer to think about how the page layout should be, but it is going to make a huge difference for those 16% of the population, and it is going to touch way more lives than we can even imagine. So yeah, that's my point.
It does have a ripple effect as well, right? Sorry, you were saying. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Vidya.
No, I mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. Like you were saying, that has a ripple effect. We are talking about the 16% to start with, but the 16% can multiply in terms of, the maximizing the experiences for all. That's the takeaway that you're saying. And of course, there is a compelling business case, right? So that's exactly what we have to be mindful of. And like you rightly said, Anamika, the question is that, is it a charity? That's not even a question. Rather, the question is, would you want to run a smart business and want to be, make your business sustainable in a long run? Then accessibility is the way to go, right? So that's what you're saying. Thank you so much. So I think it's also time for us to really unfold what it means to be accessibility driving innovations, right? I mean, of course, in the era of AI that we are in today, it's easy to say that, yes, there are innovations, right? And it's possible to drive those innovations, but it's very important to know where are those innovations, right? What are those specific examples in our lives today? So that has been positively impacting, for people with disabilities and, of course, rest of everybody else, where the experiences are absolutely maximized. So starting with you, Shraddha, on that note, so what are those examples of accessibility that was perhaps only invented supposedly for deaf, I would say, but then today it's really helping everybody else in the world? Can you talk of one or two examples?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing up that. Before I address that question, I would like to talk about our startup as well. So what I would like to say is, most of the education apps out there, they're not built for deaf people in mind. They're built in a manner which can be taught through verbally, right? And when it comes to deaf people, sound makes no difference. So with our platform, we have actually made it designed in such a way that it is accessible for the deaf community, and we actually co-created it with the deaf community in mind and with a lot of lived experience as well. And so with the help of Sun Language videos, we have learned to teach them in such a manner that they learn new words with the help of Sun Language videos, which are not being currently taught in education system. So that's how we have renovated the way education is being delivered to the deaf community and by changing the system slowly. And a few examples that comes into my mind, like with what she has shared is, I'm sure all of you must be using captions, right? You must be using captions while watching your OTT platform or even while watching on your Instagram feed, when you're on route, everything else. Did you know that captions were actually built for the deaf community first? But as you can see, how it is impacting all of you at last, right? That's one thing. And the other one is these are most popular invention of all time. So when you drive a vehicle, you use side mirrors, right? Actually, the side mirrors were actually built for the deaf people because they cannot hear the horn sound. Okay, so the side mirrors were actually built for the deaf people so that they can see behind. But as you can see now, it is mandatory for all of us to have it in our vehicles. So these kind of innovation shows that our innovation for accessibility is not just a person with disabilities. It impacts for the entire society at large. Even our startup Sun City, it actually impacts not only just the deaf community, it impacts even other disabilities. I've met a lot of people with people who are on the spectrum. They said it benefits them as well. So that's what I'm trying to explain as accessibility. It's actually an innovation.
Absolutely. You know, those are two very powerful examples. I just repeat that, you know, so one, she spoke about the closed captions. While I'm sure Shraddha is using the closed captions, you know, I mean, using the Google Live transcribe, and so that literally translates everything that we are speaking here. And, you know, for a second, you could just think, oh, well, that's helping Shraddha. But if you in the audience or anybody else, right, you know, turn on the Google, the live transcribe option, you could also be benefiting out of that just in case there is a lot of noise around, and just in case that, you know, so you're not able to hear for whatever the reasons, right? And that's the innovation. That's exactly what accessibility does. So we, you know, initially what is perceived or what is designed for someone with a people with disability, so that can essentially help everybody else, right? That's the power. And the example that she spoke about, the camera, the mirror camera, the car, you know, when you drive a car or a vehicle. So, you know, so because initially I think it was designed only for deaf, but eventually that, you know, so that has been helping everybody else to have a complete 360 degree of what you're seeing, and, you know, so to be able to ensure you safeguard yourself well, right? So I don't think we need more powerful examples than this, but of course I can still think of a couple of more examples. I was just reading a little bit about, say, for example, the wearable devices that, you know, that are very prevalent today, right? So take an example of a digital watch, a smart watch, very often it's referred to, and the vibration on the smart watch. So initially it was thought that, no, well, it is useful for deaf community or some small set of audience, I mean, some small set of population. But eventually, so that has become a way of life for all of us, right? I don't think if I use a wearable device, I will go without a vibrator, especially when I'm sitting in a meeting or a conference or a noisy environment, because, you know, the vibration, whether it's on my wearable device or a phone, actually helps me to, you know, attend to my notifications or whatever that is important, that's for me at that point in time, right? So that's the beauty about the innovation and accessibility can drive that. And we know from your experience, so how you have seen accessibility can actually drive innovation. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Sure. And again, maybe a little off tech, but what what it, you know, um, what it does to the rest of us. And how when you're making something, when you're creating something, and when you look to include everyone, what it does to the people. So one of the things that quickly comes to mind is one of my clients who was they were looking to do they were looking to hire from the queer community, and one of the things that they were afraid of was, how do we manage this bathroom situation? So one of the things that we said was, you just have to change the placard in one or two places to say all gender bathrooms, and that's all it did. But what happened after that um, was one male employee who had a baby girl, and he was a single parent. He was able to bring his baby girl to office on the day that he needed to bring her to office. So then he could take her into the all gender bathroom and change her whenever needed. So this changed the way that even men looked at parenting. Not always does the woman need to take the children. Now, even even if you're a single parent as a man, you can still take your children. Like, for instance, one of the things that is quite prevalent out there is about stairs, right? When you put up ramps for people with physical disability who cannot walk upstairs, what it does, it makes it easier for pregnant women. It makes it easier for porters who are moving heavy things. So these are the things that it does. It does what like like Anamika was saying. If you stop looking at it as from a charity place, it's not just smart to include everyone. You don't even know what the ripple effects can actually do. One of the instances that I can also give you when it comes to tech was something that I was telling the group today. Was I have babies, I have twins who go to school, and I have this school app in which we don't. They've when we were in the one of the things that we don't get to do here is have two parents of the same gender, and that is something that we are fighting with this. Not fighting, but we're in discussion with the school as well, as to be like, can we say parent instead of father and mother? It's just a simple, like Anamika was saying, all it does is just a simple thing, right? When we talk about how we identify ourselves in smaller, in the forms, all it takes is a drop down to say male, female, non-binary. That itself makes me feel like your form is talking to me, that I'm the audience for this form. These are just small things. It takes a little bit of thought. And one of the best things that we can do to make sure that this thought is not lost is to include the people when you're making this stuff, right? When you co-create with the people who are in this quote-unquote marginalized and not completely the tech bro kind, and then we can then what it does is, once you make it, then you just sit back and watch what all communities and who all it's benefiting, right? And I'll stop talking at that. Yes.
I think that's very nice. You're actually talking about the perception towards accessibility, right? And the lens that we see accessibility and the inclusive design is what matters. And that's very powerful, what you're saying. And especially if we take in the context of, shift our thinking for a minute, that if this product or if this particular, a platform or a service, how it can cater to everybody, like the washroom, for instance, right? If there is an inclusive washroom, perhaps I think initially it was perceived that, only people with disabilities should use it or can use it, or it's only for them. But eventually then it also found out that, it's an inclusive washroom. People of all genders can use it as well. But then eventually it has opened up an opportunity or a place, that anyone and everyone, regardless of disability or gender or whatsoever, the social identities that we all carry for ourselves, can actually use the same washroom. And that's a great example as well, right? So what you're talking about, the perception, the lens that we, sort of see through things, and that's what changes, and that needs to change, and that's when it leads to innovation more and more, right? So thank you so much for that perspective, Veena. So moving on to you, Anamika. So in your experience, from an IT perspective, from a technology perspective, how has accessibility led to innovation? What are those specific examples?
Yeah, so a lot of examples like enabling the users of mobile phones having simple, apps like voiceovers, or making all the apps that we have enabled with a voice service. So again, talking about disability, it doesn't have to be people who are disabled, since birth or because of some issues. There are temporary disabilities as well. Someone might have, let's say, a facial palsy, which gets cured later, but in that moment, for a few months, let's say for a few weeks, they have, maybe a slurry speech. They might have some facial disfiguration or something. But if we have systems which, let's say, are using voice commands and which can understand what you're commanding the application to do for you, that is, that's where it brings in the innovation. For example, if someone is not able to see but they need to take a ride, right? And they have to be able to book a cab for themselves. So just enabling, how they can go on with their day-to-day activities very easily without any barriers automatically leads to this innovation. And it's not just for people with permanent disabilities, but also with, let's say, someone who has had a fracture, or people who are aged, who have degraded visions, eventually degraded motor abilities or motor skills. A very good examples are our grandparents and parents. We see that day in, day out. They're not able to click particularly on something which is very closely spaced on a UI, let's say 2 buttons or some very small graphic icon, which is very difficult to be tapped on because they don't have that capability which we have right now in terms of motor skills. So yeah, apart from this, I think when we are talking about innovation, and here we already are having a lot of talk about AI. So AI is now being augmented into, I think, almost everything. Every business is trying to have some AI flavor in one way or the other. But what we need to make sure is it's fair, it's just for everyone. Because from the UX, from the user interface perspective, we are looking at a lot of things in accessibility, laws, mandates, this and that. But from the outcome perspective of an AI system or an AI model, an AI algorithm, it's very important that the outcomes are also fair. I'll take an example here. For example, a lot of us, we are from tech companies and we are using hiring bots to do an initial, filtering or initial sorting out of resumes, of, initial round of candidates, just to check on if they fit the role or something. Now, a lot of these AI hiring bots, they are flagging people with unusual eye movement or unusual, let's say, facial expressions, as frauds or cheaters. But that's not the case. They are getting eliminated right at the very first level when they have the, maybe beyond the capacity to fit that role or that job description. So again, since we all are, here talking about AI, thinking about AI, so it's very important to have everyone in mind, because technology has the power to reshape the whole society. And it's on us, it's on our thinking, it's on our, ways of working, it's in our design on if we want to, make it just for the most of us or for the all of us. So yeah.
That's very important point that you bring up again. So is like, I think you spoke about how accessibility really touches upon it, if different aspects and different life stages, I would say, right? Like, because disability, I mean, it can sort of, any of us can experience disability at any point in time for whatever the reasons, right? The medical reasons or otherwise. And therefore, that accessibility of a product, like the ones that you spoke about, those examples, so that really matters a lot. And especially again, with the aging parents, So the question again is that, do we figure out, when our parents are aged or when there is a need for accessibility, or do we actually go on the path of, accessible technology and constantly innovating and then be prepared for anything that comes our way, right? So that way that we are better prepared in terms of whether aging parents or whatever whatsoever. So it does matter. And especially I think some of these products, whether it's AI based products, or we have these beautiful inclusive and accessible products which are constantly driving innovation, like the Microsoft ones, be it Microsoft Teams, be it Google products, be it Apple products, right? So I don't think we need any more powerful examples, because we all use it, right? So you use it, I use it, Shraddha uses it, and everybody uses it. And that's a great example in itself in terms of how such an inclusive and an universal design technology can actually lead to innovation and maximize the experience for each and everyone, right? So any last comments from any of you before we wrap up and ask the questions from audience?
Yeah, I can again point out one more thing, that we were talking about why it's important as a business to be inclusive, to be accessible. So recently, not recently, actually in 2024, Google has changed its search algorithm, and now if you search for anything, the results that come up, that would be the results which are more accessible. For example, it directs you to sites or any need that you have. It directs you to the sites or apps or websites that are more inclusive, that are more accessible. So again, as a business, if you are not accessible, then probably you are also losing out on, being at the top of the search list or being at the top of people's minds. So that is important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. So Veena, Shraddha, any last comments from you?
I find, may I? Okay. So to my last 2 cents while leaving you all with this thought, I think this panel itself is kind of it's a kind of great example of how accessibility is one. It's bloody creative, you have, it's challenging, and what it does is it makes you be present where you are, and between the four of us, I think the kind of discussions we've had, and the kind of how we've even tried to include Shraddha, and while we include Vidya, while we include me, and while we include Anamika, we're all coming from different places in the world. And one of the things that I also wanted to close with was when we do captioning and things like that, and as I also write sometimes for films, one of the things that happens is it lets you keep the culture of the story that you're telling, not just in the way that you speak, but also in the way that you would write, or you'd want someone to read it. So for instance, let me give you a quick example of our Bangalore Kannada, right? When we make films in Kannada, what we do is we use the Bengaluru Kannada so that everybody gets an idea of how the joke actually, when you read the joke, even in English, even when you read it in English, you'll not be able to miss out on the cultural nuances of being a Kannada film, right? Yeah, instead of saying, when they say Yako Maga, we'll say, why man son? You know what I mean? And that helped even you get the joke, I'm assuming. And we've been paying attention to that as, people who write scripts and things like that.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, that's absolutely well said. So in fact, so one thing that you also touched upon, another important point, Veena, thanks for that, is that if you really see, do things looking accessibility in mind, right? Accessibility by design, as we say, everything can change. And the panel here, the stage here, four of us, in sync with each other, well coordinated amongst ourselves is an example. And the reason that we could do is that, because definitely we all believe that accessibility is a fundamental right to each of us, regardless of whether you have disability or not, because we care about including each of us. And it had to start with us. We had to set that example for the audience here and for the world out there. And that's how we based our conversations, and the principle was that, and you see that as, as an example in life. So thanks for touching upon that aspect, which I had kind of forgotten, right? Thank you. Any last comments from you, Shraddha?
Thank you. Just before we conclude this, I wanted to leave all of you with one thought. It's that you have to decide how accessibility can make a person feel inclusive or invisible.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, for that, Shraddha. I think with that note, so we are kind of end of the conversation. But let me just conclude, the whole conversation with one quote, right? So which I strongly believe, exclusion is expensive. Inclusion is imperative that leads to innovation. I hope that resonates with you and motivates you to really consider accessibility by design and see the power of innovation that it can drive, as we spoke some of the examples today, and much more than that what is there in the real setting. Thank you so much. And, so do we take questions from the audience? Any questions?
Hi, my name is Srividya Sheshadri from Amrita University, and I feel like this panel has been speaking to the choir for me, because accessibility is very much innovation, something that we take to heart in what we do. And one of the challenges that I feel we face is that, you can make something accessible, and I think some of you touched upon this already, but how do you then cross the next challenge of making sure that people have the confidence, the intrinsic motivation, to be able to then utilize that accessible technology or those accessible services, and how do you work those into your design processes? That's basically my question.
That's a brilliant question. Do you want to take that up, Anamika?
Yeah. So yeah, of course. So what happens so I'll give you an example what we do at Nagarro. Yeah. So at Nagarro, we have a program called Testing Pro. What we do in that, we take in some candidates from different NGOs who are having some or the other kind of neurodiversity. Okay. So they can be autistic, they can be on the spectrum, basically. We train them on software testing, how to test, and we train them for three months, 4 months. We make them employable, and then they are out in the market, they are being hired, they are getting good jobs, they are getting to, lead a life that all of us are doing without much thought. But for them, it's something of a very big achievement. So, of course, there has to be some enablement. Similarly, I have a team where I have blind testers with me. So we have a team, we just do accessibility, and those people are working day in, day out with the clients, interacting with them. So it takes some training. They might be, capable of testing or using these softwares without seeing it. They basically, so we also had a podcast. We called it, do you know how a website sounds to someone? So it completely changes the perspective. The way you use a website, you would not, ever think about how it will sound to someone, right? So it's just a matter of perspective. It's just a matter of little enablement. So a little bit training, a little bit of push. We have trainings, we have, and we basically promote the same thing in all the internal activities, tools that we have, that we, encourage all of these people to participate equally as the other, let's say, 18,000 employees are doing in our company. So from our side, as a tech company, as a, a person, at least for me, who I think I want to be that enabler. I want to be that, I would say the change that they are looking for, basically.
Yeah. No, I think while Anamika spoke in the context.
Sorry. May I also add to just one very quickly, because of what I have learned is also that you do your bit and the diversity will happen. So you make sure you're inclusive. Diverse people will come. You have no idea how much the marginalized communities are looking for things. They don't, because things are not accessible. So one of the things that we say when we even start with, for instance, with recruitment and stuff, when they say, where are the women? We need to hire from the women place. We need to hire from LGBTQ. I mean, look around. Look at the number of women that are there. The only thing you need to do is make sure you're safe for a woman. Make sure you're safe for different, and people will find you. That is the best part of being inclusive. At some point or the other, people will end up finding you because they are looking.
No, I think that's right. I mean, also kind of to extend that point of view, right? Is that one is how do we instill that confidence? That's what the question was, right? And I think instilling the confidence in both people with disabilities to be able to use the accessible technology or whatever, right, and prove it to the world that it's possible, that I can be on par with others. Also, I would say that, extending the point of view, how can we instill confidence in the technologists who are, who may be with disability or without disability? I would say seeing is believing, right? So put people in front of the technologists with or without disabilities, right? When you see somebody using the technology in front of you and with the same ease, just like anyone else, right? And that sets the right example. And if there are technologists or the business leaders who may have a certain resistance for accessible technology, so seeing is believing, right? And then, the only way that it works is we have to build on it on an iterative style. I don't think it works otherwise. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, so disability is associated, including accessibility, which is only perceived that is useful for people with disabilities, is very often associated with a lot of stigmas and stereotypes. So unless we work on the root cause of that, we will not be able to really go ahead and instill the confidence. So it's a multi-level layered work, I would say. I hope that has answered the question. Right? So any other questions? And I don't know how much time we have, honestly, because currently the timer is inaccessible for me.
Yeah. Sorry, Vidya, we might have to wrap it up because we are running in a delay of like 10-15 minutes. So if any of you have any further doubts, you can definitely catch all the panelists up outside or maybe meet during lunch or afterwards. But thank you so much. It was one among the most insightful sessions I've had today. It's rarely that we think from perspectives of others, and it's people who have lived those experiences who are right now on the dais and talking about it, and it's such an insightful experience. Thank you so much, ladies. And can we have the track curator Sharmila onto the dais to give off the goodies to Vidya Rao? To Veena Kulkarni. And can we have Hina onto the dais? To give off the memento to Shraddha Agarwal. And to Anamika Mukhopadhyay. Can we have all the ladies lined up in front to have a quick photo? There we go. That's all the track curators, the speakers, the panelists all on the dais. Thank you so much.